guys, it's Ghost. And welcome back to another Arcana inspired sweets video. It's been a hot minute since I focused on this series. I was actually feeling kind of burnt out after Azra's video, so I decided to take a little bit of a break, and I didn't realize the break was gonna turn out to be this long. But that aside, I'm back in business, and today we'll be making a blueberry marble cheesecake. I chose this recipe for Nadia because it looks very elegant, it tastes very delicious, and it looks very impressive, but it isn't that hard to make. I also found a recipe that uses lavender in it as well, and that is her favorite flower, so I think that would have been the perfect one to make. And if I wasn't in a situation where I was quarantined and couldn't get lavender to put into it, I definitely would have. But unfortunately, because of the current situation, I can't just go to a store, find lavender, and buy it, because they don't just randomly sell it at the supermarket. So I'm taking the lavender out of the recipe, and then I found a different recipe that works with the ingredients that I have. However, as usual, I will be altering the recipe to suit the ingredients that I have currently, and I will be putting my version of the ingredients in the description below, as well as linking the original recipe. Enough of rambling and being redundant, let's get on with making it. So first things first, you want to take a microwave-proof container and put it on a scale and measure out 30 grams of butter. It can be salted, unsalted, it doesn't really matter. Next, you want to cover it with plastic wrap and then microwave it until the butter is completely melted. Here I have a mini food processor. Now you can do this next step in a plastic bag with whatever heavy object you have in the house, but I'm going to use this because I have one. You want to take some graham crackers or whole grain crackers or any kind of cracker with like a lot of grain and that sort of stuff mixed into it. Make sure that the crackers are unsalted. I'm pretty sure these are, last I checked. You can technically use plain crackers, but you won't get a very roasted flavor out of it. So I'm using these. I also found these as well, so I feel like those would be nice. Anyway, enough talking. I'm just going to open these up and then drop them into the food processor. You can kind of just crush them up a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. The food processor is going to pulverize everything anyway. All of mine here. I have 3 bags of these, and then actually this one seems like a good amount, actually. Yes, I'm going to save this one later, for later. And then you put the lid on, and then pulverize the heck out of them. Once that's fully incorporated, I'm going to add all of my butter into this mixture, put the lid on, and then pulse it a couple more times until it comes together. After a while, everything kind of starts to cake together, which prevents the food processor from stirring properly, so I'm going to go get a bowl. Alright, so I've stirred it quite a bit after moving it to the bowl, and depending on what type of cracker you use, how dry it is, sometimes the original amount of butter is not going to be enough, so it's better to start with less than you think you need. And add your way in, because you can actually fix this. Mine is pretty dry. I can't really shape this into anything, so I'm going to add a little bit more melted butter to the mixture. Now this is the texture that you want. It's kind of reminiscent of wet sand, where it's still kind of dry and crumbly, but you can kind of pack it down and shape it. So the next step is to take a loose bottom tart pan like this. This isn't really the bottom that's meant to go here, but that's all I could find. So to protect the bottom, I'm also going to use a piece of cooking paper that I've cut into a circle. Alright, I found a better bottom for this that lies flatter, but it's still loose. Still putting the paper in. Also, I'm just going to take this apart and grease the tart pan on the sides so nothing gets stuck, just in case. And then I can just put the bottom back and put the baking sheet right here. Now the next step is to tip the crust into the tart pan. And I'm just going to take a spatula and flatten everything down. I might actually just use my hands. This is quite finicky. Make sure your hands are clean when you do this. Alright, my crust turned out a little bit uneven, but I'm just going to stick to this. I'm going to take some plastic wrap and cover my crust and put this in the fridge until firm. Oh yeah, I recommend putting it on a plate once you're done with the crust part so that you don't accidentally push the bottom up and ruin everything. Alright, so if you have blueberry jam, you can just skip this step, but I don't have any. I just have frozen blueberries, so I'm going to make jam out of them. So to start off, I'm going to add 100 grams of blueberries to the sauce pot. And to this, I'm going to add 90 grams of granulated sugar. Or you can add 100. Some recipes call for equal amounts of fruit and sugar, some call for slightly less. You want to stir well until it's combined. Then you want to turn the heat on to a low setting so that it just starts to melt the frozen blueberries. You don't want to do high or else you're going to burn the sugar. I don't know if you can see as well on camera, but the liquid from the blueberries is starting to come out and wet the sugar and melt it, and the heat is also helping. Basically, just continuously stir so nothing burns. Once your mixture is completely liquid like this, you want to turn the heat up to medium so that you can melt the rest of the sugar. As you can see on the spatula, I switched it out for a silicone one. You can see that there's still grains of sugar. You want to continue stirring until all of that is melted. Alright, now as you can see, everything is completely melted and completely liquid. It boiled once, but I'm going to do it again. Remember to continuously stir so nothing burns. As you boil, you may notice that your blueberries start to swell. And that's just the liquid inside the blueberries starting to warm up and expand the berry. And eventually they'll burst. Basically what you want is for all of them to burst. Alright, if you want to be able to tell if they've burst or not, here's one that hasn't. It's really round and, oh wait, there it goes. And now it's all wrinkly. So basically you want to wait until all the blueberries are not round and smooth and they turn wrinkly. Now you can move on to the next step if you don't have one of these, but first you want to remove the pot from the heat, and I'm going to take my hand blender and blend everything until smooth. You can just move on to the next step if you don't have one. Oh yeah, be very careful while doing that. The liquid is still kind of hot, so you don't want it splashing you. Okay, forgot to do this step earlier. Originally this is supposed to happen once all of the sugars are melted and the blueberries are starting to burst. You want to add a dash of lemon juice. It totally works if you do it now as well, just they usually do it earlier. Give this a quick stir and then bring this to a boil yet again to incorporate it well. I fitted a mesh strainer over a bowl and I'm going to carefully, trying not to spill, pour the jam mixture onto the mesh and into the bowl underneath. Taking a spatula, I'm just going to push it through, helping it through. And what I'm doing is I'm basically just making sure that none of the seeds or the skin will be left when everything's done. Everything goes through, I'm just going to add a little bit more. Now I've I've covered the blueberry sauce with plastic wrap, and I'm going to put this in the fridge to chill. Now we are finally getting into the cheesecake part of things. I've left this package of cream cheese out in the open so that it can return to room temperature and also soften a little bit. It is 200 grams, and that's the total of the amount of cream cheese that you need for this recipe. But first, you want to open up the package and measure out 100 grams into a bowl. Conveniently, this package comes with lines that mark about how much of the cheese you need, and it has a line for 100, so I'm just going to cut it out and put that into the bowl. To this, I'm going to add 20 grams of sugar. I'm using a light cane sugar, that's why it is brown. To this, I'm going to add 50 grams of heavy cream. And you also need 40 grams of yogurt. And finally, you want to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. You want to do the exact same thing again in another bowl, so you have 2 bowls of essentially the same mixture. Then you want to take an electric mixer. You can also use a stand mixer or a whisk if you're really up for the challenge. Just make sure everything is well blended. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Make sure everything is well blended. Take one of the bowls and take the blueberry sauce from earlier, pour a small amount of it in, and then stir it in using a spatula. So once that's done, you want to take a microwave-safe container and then measure out 7.5 grams. It's a finicky measurement, but that's what the recipe says, so I'm just going to go with it. To this, you want to add 3 tablespoons of water. Just kind of shake it around so that it's combined. Then you want to take this and then microwave it for 30 seconds on a medium to low setting. Take that again, give it a good stir. Once that's finished microwave, you want to take out your crust from the fridge and then remove the plastic covering and have it on standby because you really need to work quickly. First, take your white cheesecake mixture, and you can just eyeball it, but add half of your gelatin into it. Then take your electric mixer and then just working quickly, take the blueberry mixture and do the exact same thing. Then take your tart crust, and then pour some of the blueberry mixture into it, some of the white mixture over top, and then just kind of alternate between them until your crust is filled, or you run out of mixture. You want to take your spatula and sort of scrape down the sides so you don't waste any of the batter. You can use the same spatula for both. It's gonna get mixed up anyway, so. Next, you want to take whatever stick is handy for you. I'm using a chopstick, and just you want to swirl everything together. Don't scrape the crust. You don't want to incorporate the crumbs in here. But you do want to incorporate the colors so you get a beautiful marbled effect. And I'm just going to go ahead and let everything go to the side. I've moved the cake to a plate that has sides that are kind of, I don't know, it's not a bowl, but it's not a plate exactly. Basically what I wanted to do was to get it so that the edge of the plate is higher than the edge of the cake. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm going to again put some plastic wrap over it, and I don't want the wrap dipping down and touching the cake. So So anyway, once it's all wrapped up, I'm gonna put this back in the fridge until it is solid. The recipe says overnight, but I may take it out earlier because I have a feeling we're gonna have this for dessert. So I'll just try to get some footage once it's complete. So this is how the cheesecake turned out. It's been a couple hours and I cut a slice and also kind of went all out on putting it on a plate because we had some strawberries and some mint. So yeah, I think this suits the character. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!